I'm J.R. Church. Welcome to today's webcast. Yesterday we talked about Isaiah chapter 19. I would like to back up a chapter and talk about chapter 18 of Isaiah today. I mentioned it yesterday that it was talking about the land of Ethiopia. Listen to what verse 1 says. Woe to the land shadowing with wings, which is beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. There have been a number of commentaries that suggested that the wings were the wings of the locusts or the grasshoppers that devour that part of the world from time to time. And I suspect that Ethiopia is the source of many of the grasshoppers that migrate over across into Yemen and various other places, even into Israel from time to time. However, I think this has an end-time prophetic significance. Goes on to say that sendeth ambassadors by the sea, even in vessels of bulrushes upon the water, saying, Go, ye swift messengers, to a nation scattered and peeled, to a people terrible from their beginning hitherto, a nation meted out and trodden down, whose land the rivers have spoiled. It is my opinion that this is a reference to the Ethiopian Jews. They are, notice, a nation scattered and peeled. The word peeled there in the original Hebrew has to do with a dark-skinned people. A people, and the word peeled here has the connotation that the sun has burnt their skin, and that's the reason it looks like it does. Well, nevertheless, it is a people who were terrible from their beginning hitherto, a nation meted out and trodden down, whose lands the rivers have spoiled. All ye inhabitants of the world and dwellers on the earth, see ye, when he lifteth up an ensign on the mountains, when he bloweth a trumpet, hear ye. If you recall back in the early 90s, the Ethiopian Jews were rescued. I believe it was 1991 was the first rescue of black Jews from Ethiopia. But let me tell you where they came from. There are two sources for the Jews of Ethiopia. One is that Moses was, during his young career, was the general of the Egyptian army. And he and his troops went down to fight against the Ethiopians one day and came to the island city of Meroe, which is located in the middle of the Nile River. And he tried to figure out how to get into the city in order to conquer it, and couldn't. But one day Tharbis, the daughter of the king of Ethiopia, went up on the ramparts of the walled city and looked out and saw this handsome Egyptian-like man prancing around on his horse, going here and there, trying to figure out, how to conquer the city. But she fell madly in love with him. You can find this, by the way, in the writings of Flavius Josephus, the first century Jewish historian. Well, she sent her servant out to see Mr. Moses with a proposal of marriage. If you will marry me, handsome fella, I'll give you the city as a present, a wedding present. Well, Moses took her up on that, and they consummated the marriage that same day. So he was able to take the city which was the capital city of of Ethiopia, and he was able then to present it to the Pharaoh. He evidently had children by this Ethiopian woman named Tharbis. In fact, in Numbers chapter 12, Aaron and Miriam, Moses' brother and sister, were very upset with Moses for having married this Ethiopian woman. I don't know exactly what kind of children they had, but from them evidently came the black Jews of Ethiopia. In fact, you remember the Queen of Sheba? She was royalty. You got to understand that these Jews were, these black Jews of Ethiopia, their mother was the daughter of the king. All right? So maybe she became the queen. Go forward for a few hundred years to the days of King Solomon. From 1500 BC, 500 years to 1000 BC, you come to Solomon, and up comes this Queen of Sheba. And by the way, Solomon Solomon's mother was Bathsheba, that is, a woman from the Beth house of Sheba. So it's entirely possible that Bathsheba, who became the wife of David, was a black Jew from Ethiopia. It's entirely possible that Solomon was a black-skinned Jew himself. And so when the Queen of Sheba came up, she probably was Jewish. You remember the Ethiopian eunuch that came up in the book of Acts, and Stephen baptized him in a river on his way back home to Ethiopia, probably somewhere down in the Gaza Strip area. Well, he too was a Jewish man from Ethiopia. So the Jews of Ethiopia have a long history. And then, of course, there's the Queen of Sheba's son, sired by Solomon, whose name was Menelik. He went back home to Ethiopia to continue on the line of the royal Jewish line